Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Hello, this is part 2 of the lecture of Pragmatics. Uh, we're going to discuss these main points: deixis, reference, and presupposition. Of course, we have defined pragmatics as the speaker's intended meaning, and we've said that we cannot reach out the speaker's meaning unless we account for the context. But how can we account for the context? Naturally, we would go through the environmental factors, the contextual factors, the factors that constitute the context, and these factors can help in the first place to lead the speaker, the listener, interpret the meaning of the speaker. And on the other hand, the speaker would definitely expect the hearer or the listener to have such a shared kind of the shared knowledge between the speaker and the hearer, and how this knowledge comes, the shared knowledge comes. Of course, it would be revealed through the contextual factors. So what are the elements of context, or the contextual factors? This is going to be the main topic of this lecture. Of course, the main contextual factors which are discussed in this lecture are the deixis, reference, and presupposition. There are other contextual factors. We're going to explain them in the lectures to come. This lecture is concerned with these three. Now, each of these three has its own sub-factors that lead to these major contextual factors. Starting with deixis. Simply speaking, deixis is a set of expressions. That rely on knowledge of immediate physical context. Now, without the existence of the physical context, we cannot use or we cannot interpret any of these expressions. I mean, without the existence of context, without the existence of the real or context or physical context, we cannot reach out to any deictic expression or any set of expressions that are referred to deixis. Deixis, of course, of different types. They can be of the person deixis, they can be of the space, place deixis, or time or temporal deixis. The person deixis is the set of expressions that are used to point to people. Okay? Him, her, them, those, I, you, and so on and so forth. These expressions that are used to refer to people. However, how can we use them to refer to people? Of course, without the existence, without the availability of the physical context, we would not have the deictic expression. Now, if I say him, okay, this deictic expression is not interpreted as the person, the male person who is intended, unless there is a kind of physical context between the speaker and the hearer. okay, or her, or them, or those, or this, or that, okay. We cannot interpret it as a deictic expression unless we have it in the physical context, or at least we have the physical context in mind, okay. Again, the same with the spatial dexes. Again, set of expressions used to point to a location. For example, we say here, there, near, that, across, in opposition to, and so on and so forth. These place or spatial pointers are also called deictic expressions, but they are used for place. Again, without the existence of the physical context of these expressions, we cannot say that these are deictic expressions, and especially we cannot say that we deal with the pragmatic meaning of these expressions. 3. Temporal dexes, again, set of expressions used to point to time. We say now, then, last week, next month, next year, and so on and so forth. Again, we cannot use them without the existence of the physical context, or the physical context. The existence of the physical context will set the way through to the interpretation of these deictic expressions. We said that pragmatics is the speaker's meaning. So, how the speaker would refer to the listener to identify the intended meaning. Now, if I say something and I want the listener to interpret or identify or find out my intention, my intended meaning, of course, through context, but context may have different contextual interpretations. It is not necessary one set of contextual factors. It could be two or more, and accordingly, the interpretation would be more than one, and consequently, the utterance is going to be ambiguous. So how, as a speaker, can I refer to the listener to my intention? Of course, this process is called reference. This process is called reference. So the listener would interpret what the speaker means through either inference, anaphora, or presupposition. Inference, anaphora, or presupposition. So the speaker refers and the listener infers. The speaker refers, makes reference, and the listener infers, makes inference. And the inference is of different types. It could be anaphora, cataphora, presupposition, and so on and so forth. We're going through them one by one. So, for example, do you have your mawrid? Here, as a speaker, the word mawrid, which is a dictionary, whose name is al-mawrid dictionary, okay? So referring to al-mawrid, or saying al-mawrid, or your mawrid, here the speaker refers to the dictionary whose name is al-mawrid. Now the listener would expect or would interpret what the speaker means through inference, anaphora, or presupposition. According to this example, the speaker would infer from the speaker's utterance that al-mawrid is a dictionary, and the speaker is not asking for the word mawrid, but the speaker is asking for the dictionary itself, and the dictionary is named as the as al-mawrid. So here al-mawrid is a reference to the dictionary where the speaker refers to, and the whole process depends on inference. Okay, we'll go through these one by one. Now, so how can inference be achieved? First, inference is the additional information. Inference is the additional information used by the listener, not the speaker. The speaker refers, the speaker uses reference, while the listener uses inference. So the inference is the additional information used by the listener to connect between what the speaker says and what the speaker intends. What the speaker says, what is said, and what must be meant. What the speaker says, okay, and what the speaker really intends or wants to say. So here is the example. Did you get your June? Okay, did you get your June? Here June, of course it is a month. Now on the surface level, on the semantic level, on the lexical level, June is a month. Okay, June is a month, but it is not. The meaning is weird. If we take it semantically, the meaning is weird unless there is a pragmatic meaning, unless there is a context, unless contextual factors are present in this utterance. So here the listener should infer the reference of June. The listener should use the additional information through which he can get the exact reference to June. It could be a salary. It could be some kind of ration or something. It could be everything that the speaker intends. Everything that the speaker intends. And how can the listener expect or interpret it right? So this can be done through the inference. And the inference can be done through the common ground or the shared knowledge between the speaker and the listener. Another term, another concept, which is the anaphora. Anaphora can be defined as the subsequent reference to an already introduced entity. A subsequent reference. So we refer to things, okay, and then we refer them back. We refer to things. For example, I say Ahmed, and then after saying Ahmed, I refer to Ahmed through anaphoric expressions. It could be he, him, the referent, the student, whatsoever. Okay, to an already introduced entity. The already introduced entity is the name Ahmed. So this is called anaphora. Okay, for example, we found a house to rent. So the already introduced entity is a house. Okay, but the kitchen was very small, and here the kitchen refers to the house. Why? Because it is part of a whole. The kitchen is part of the house. Okay, or we can say I caught a bus and asked the driver if it went. Now here the bus, a bus, is the already introduced entity, and it refers back to the bus. So the anaphoric expression to the antecedent bus. Okay, went near the dada. No, so we must make an inference. If X is a house, then X has a kitchen. Okay, this is a logical rule in order to interpret the connection between antecedent which is the house, the already introduced entity, is called antecedent, and anaphoric expression, which is the kitchen, which is the subsequent reference. Okay, so this is how anaphora work. Again, it is a kind of inference. Presupposition. Presupposition is a very important concept in both semantics and pragmatics, and we have to differentiate between presupposition as a semantic concept and presupposition as a pragmatic concept. The difference is obviously clear when there is a co-text, which is the textual context or the textual context, then it is a semantic presupposition, or sometimes called entailment. When it is physical context, there is a physical context or situational context, by which I mean the physical or situational context, the context through which the intended meaning of the speaker is revealed, then it is a pragmatic presupposition. In either way, presupposition is the assumptions that the speaker assumes to be true or known by the listener. Okay, they are what the speaker or the writer assumes true or known by a listener or reader. Okay, so for example, your brother is waiting outside. Your brother is waiting outside. Now here, there is an obvious presupposition that you have a brother. You have a brother. Now, why did you arrive late? So the presupposition here is you did arrive late. Okay? The presupposition is not the question why did you arrive late? No, the presupposition here, which is something taken for granted, is that you arrived late. Okay? So when did you stop smoking? Okay? When did you stop smoking? So you did smoke, you used to smoke, and now you stopped smoking. Or there is an old example which was mentioned by your book, by this textbook, and nowadays it is deleted because it causes certain problems between husband and wives, which is, when did you stop beating your wife? So the presupposition is that the listener is used to beating his wife. The listener is used to beating his wife, and now the listener stopped, and so on and so forth. Now presupposition to be constant, there is a test for presupposition, whether the presupposition is true or not. For example, we say my car is wreck, and my car is not a wreck. Okay, let's see if the presupposition is constant under this negation. So the test of a presupposition is that by negating what is presupposed, if it is constant, then it is a presupposition. If it is not constant, then it is not a presupposition. So my car is wreck, then I have a car. Now if we negate this sentence, let's say my car is not a wreck, so it still has a presupposition, which is I have a car. Now here it is a presupposition, and it is a successful presupposition. Why? Because it passed the test. Okay, so the underlying presupposition, which is I have a car, remains true in either way, despite the fact that the two sentences have the opposite meanings. Okay, this is called the constancy under negation test for identifying presupposition. So that's all for this lecture. These are very important concepts. I'm going to explain more about them in another video. That's all for me for now. Thank you very much. If you have any inquiry regarding this lecture, you may contact me online. Thank you.